The term indigenous to me is the first people. So the land that we're on, the people that roamed it first. I feel like our history books tend to leave us in the 1800s, like we're an ancient artifact, but they don't really recognize that we're still here. Currently, the land that we are on and also share with UNC Greensboro was once occupied by the Sara and the Kiowa Native Americans in what's now called North Carolina. Out of respect for them and for those that were lost, if we could just have a moment of silence to show our respect. In North Carolina, we have one federally recognized tribe, which is the Cherokee tribe, and then we have 7 state recognized tribes. It's the Lumbee, the Saponi, the Occaneechi Band of Saponi Nation, the Halawa-Saponi, the Coharie, the Meherrin, and the Waccamaw-Siouan. We also have 2 tribes that by political standards are not state or federally recognized tribes, but they're certainly recognized by our native people, and that is the Choano tribe and the Tuscarora tribe. At UNCG, Native American students make up less than 1% of the student body on campus. Being such a small percentage, I very much feel like I have to work harder to make myself known, but I was always taught that if you're not at the table when decisions are being made, then you're forgotten. When I was a freshman, my first goal was I want to be the president of the Native American Student Association. NASA is very personal to me. My mother, when she worked at UNCG, her first thing was, where are the Native students and how can I help them? Our mission is to be a voice for the Native American students on campus, use it as an educational opportunity, but also preserve the integrity of our culture. Every October, when Halloween comes around and people like to appropriate the indigenous culture among other cultures, we're campaigning. Usually I'm dressed in my full regalia. Some people are in awe and some people are like, what in the world does she have on? But I love it and I feed off of it, because if you're curious about it, you're gonna ask me about it so I could educate you on it. Also with the Native American sorority, I was a part of the first class to have been crossed at UNCG. The sorority is Alpha Pi Omega Sorority Incorporated. It is the oldest and the first Native American sorority in the nation. The sorority began in 1994 at Chapel Hill, and there were 4 women in the early 2000s that wanted to bring the sorority at UNCG. However, UNCG did not want them there. So they actually were crossed with sisters at our Alpha chapter in Chapel Hill. And so in spring of 2016, we were actually successfully able to cross our first line of women, which consisted of myself and 6 other women on campus, and we're known as the Victory Voices. It's meant a lot to me. A lot of my outside time other than academics is dedicated to Alpha Pi Omega and the Native American Student Association on campus. People ask me, well, speak Indian, speak Native American, and I don't know what that means, because are you telling me to speak Tuscarora? Are you telling me to speak Navajo? There's so many different languages, but specifically with the Lumbee people, there's a reason why I can't fluently speak my language. The Lumbee people, if you were to ever look at a map of North Carolina in the 1700s, you wouldn't necessarily find our name there. Before the colonizers came over, there was an abundance of us. When the Europeans came, a lot of tribes in like the southern area were losing members of their tribes, and they actually came together for survival purposes. My grandparents are actually from like Fairmont and then Pembroke and Maxton area. They actually moved to Greensboro. It was very hard for my grandparents to move here. It was a very white neighborhood, and the people there didn't want my grandparents to move there. For a lot of my mom's life, my grandparents were actually alcoholics. Sometimes for help, I guess, they turned to alcoholism. You see, our songs and our dances, they were shunned away with. Or the Europeans realized they couldn't kill us, so they would take the Indian out of us. My great-great-grandmother wouldn't have been able to do powwow dances and ceremonies. It's just being American Indian. Then you move on to my grandmother, she's Lumbee. That's it, she's never danced. My mother didn't get the privilege to actually dance and really be involved in what it meant to be Native American until she was 18. I was carried in the circle when I was 6 months old, so I've known this, and I was thankful enough to grow up with this all my life. It was almost like our culture was being lost, but I never like to say that because I feel like there's a revitalization for our culture. A powwow is a very universal thing. No matter if you are in another part of North Carolina or in another state, they're gonna look the same. You could have multiple tribes being represented there. And on the outside, you've got your drum groups. You have your dancers dressed in their regalias. And then you've got vendors, food, so you can buy stuff, eat stuff. The location may vary, so it may vary like how I'm dancing. If I'm dancing in, grass, it's got holes everywhere, so I gotta watch out for it. Or if I'm in like a basketball court. Certain tribes have certain customs. For us in North Carolina, when we dance in the arena, we dance this direction. But some tribes may dance in the opposite direction. Before any dancer dances in the arena, it's smudged, which is a form of purifying the land because it is something that is sacred. For me, it's a family reunion. I'm not even talking about blood-related people. Like, I've got family in the Halawassaponi tribe, in the Okanichi tribe, in the Kohari tribe. Being in the arena is a very sacred thing to me. It is my healing. Now being in college, I'm stressed out to the max. When I get to go to a powwow, it's like I leave those behind. Greensboro actually recognized October 8th as Indigenous Peoples Day because they wanted to acknowledge that the community of Indigenous people in Greensboro is actually very good, very large. Last year, there were actually 2 murals in downtown Greensboro, and one is of a young man who is from the Robinson County tribal community. Also, a young girl who at the time was Miss Lumbee and who's also one of my sorority sisters. Her face is actually painted close to there, actually right outside of UNCG. Along with our tribal pinecone patchwork, getting to see things that I recognize here where I live, it truly warms my heart and it makes me feel good. Now they recognize that there are Indigenous people still here. Although we have a long way to go, things are certainly being done in a positive way for our people. At UNCG specifically, the Office of Intercultural Engagements will be hosting a land acknowledgement. So there will, from that point on, forever be a plaque to acknowledge the Indigenous people that occupied the area that our campus is now on. I want to say first and foremost how incredibly proud I am of the younger generation. Now I'm seeing this rise of Native American youth that basically thrive off of our culture. They want to start doing our ceremonial dances, our social dances that we Eastern Woodland people once did, and they want to start speaking our languages again. Growing up in my culture, I've had a very good awareness of my self-identity, and I'm very fortunate for that, whereas others haven't always. Having this cultural foundation will truly take away some of the problems that our youth find. I'm definitely excited to see what the generations after I'm long gone, what it's going to be like here.